Hello and welcome to Healing Tips from the Heart, Intuition with Helpers, Healers, and Guides. I am your host, Dr. Lori Hops, licensed psychologist, writer, and artist. I've explored mind, body, and spirit related to intuition, or your personal guidance system, since early childhood. Meet my guests who have learned from their personal and professional lives to explore vast realms of knowing, synchronicities, and overcoming challenges. Their stories may inspire you with tools to enhance your daily living and relationships. Hello, everyone, and welcome my special guest for today, Dr. David Gruder. Dr. David is the multi-best-selling, 12 award-winning recovering psychologist and professional troublemaker who was the co-founder and first president of the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. His latest project is the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty, which we'll be hearing more about in a few minutes. He's also known internationally for challenging conventionally accepted beliefs that are harming humanity, and for equipping leaders and influencers in many areas, including business, government, helping professions, education, and the media, to become the change they want to see and effectively catalyze those changes in their sphere of influence. And his main website is drgruder.com, Gruder. And I am thrilled to not only have you, but to say that you are the first of a second timers club.
Yay.
Yay. And I will have the link to our first interview in the program notes along with all of your other contact information. So welcome back, Dr. David Gruder.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted and honored to be the first in your return Second Timers Club.
Yes. And today we're going to be talking about something quite different than we did last time. Creativity in the service of love, which I loved that interview, and it stands the test of time because we did it quite a while ago. But today is a different sort of focus on maybe creating some clarity in these times of upheaval, confusion, and conflict. But of course, I want you to dive in and tell us more about your vision and how you're bringing a focus down into reality for people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, one of the blessings of being an elder is that I get to look back on the arc of my lifetime with that blessing of 2020 hindsight in order to see, oh, yes, that's what that was for. That's what that, where the road, the journey makes a lot more sense in hindsight. And I see in hindsight how I was groomed not by anyone's conscious design, but basically the universe's, to be a futurist.
Mm.
And I don't know if you want me to go into stories about things that happened to me between ages, 6 and 20 that solidified me as a futurist. But the bottom line is that I have been blessed with this ability to simultaneously see a big picture at the 40,000 foot level and the boots on the ground, step-by-step, nitty-gritty implementation on the earthly level. And that's
magical. That's a magical combination.
It's a magical combination. I did not know when I was a younger man that was an unusual trait in leaders. It was natural for me, so I just made this faulty assumption that was true of all leaders until a mentor of mine in the 1980s took me to task, and he said to me, "You've got an expectation of leaders that's just way off base. You're
Mm.
blessed with something, and embrace the blessing, but stop expecting all other leaders to be blessed with what you're blessed with. So what that's all led to at this point in my life is clarity about what the next evolution in the human potential movement is, which is finally harmonizing personal freedom, self-actualization, or the step beyond self-actualization that Maslow talked about toward the end of his life, that he called self-transcendence, and societal well-being. That we're long overdue in harmonizing those two rather than allowing those two to be in competition against each other or cancel each other out or make one more important than the other. And so it's that I'm really devoted to helping emerge.
Wow, beautiful. So, David, not everyone knows about those concepts. And so could you try to bring that boots to the ground and describe so people can go, "Oh, that's what he's talking about."
Sure.
Yeah,
So on a societal level, I'll do this on a societal level and on a personal level.
great.
On the societal level, all free countries or countries that aspire to be free nations or are to some extent or another free, their their basic operating intention is to harmonize what's called in US Constitution languaging, for example, personal freedom
Hmm.
and the common good. Right? So personal freedom is about me being in a state of self-governance. I'm free because I can govern myself. And the common good is the society's or the nation's collective well-being. And at the societal level, the massive divisiveness that we see in the world in recent decades and certainly in the present, and it's far from getting resolved as we record this, uh, is is this polarization between groups that insist that the only thing that's important is personal freedom, and groups that insist that the only thing that's important is the common good. And they're both equally and oppositely insane, not because of what they're focused on, but because of what they're leaving out. It's got to be the both and rather than the either or. So, on a boots on the ground level, the challenge of societies and of governments is to reformulate their clarity in terms of crafting policies and interpreting laws to facilitate that harmony between personal freedom, or what I refer to as self-sovereignty, and the common good, or what I refer to as societal well-being. So that's kind of the boots on the ground vision at the societal level. Did I articulate that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping so for our audience. I know I've had the benefit of hearing these wise words more than once. So for some people, it may be brand new to them. And so, can you maybe give an example of when the personal and the societal are in harmony and when they're in conflict?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have to give an example of when they're in conflict because that's happening all the time, unless you think I should.
Well, let's take it down to the family.
Okay.
So let's take it down to either couples or child and parent or a teenager
So we're going to
with
take it down to the
siblings.
personal level from the societal level now.
Okay. Yes.
Sure. So one of the things that we see in families more and more just breaks my heart is families in which there are left-leaning family members and right-leaning family members, and instead of being a family and loving on one another and understanding each other, they break into war against each other and end up oftentimes canceling each other, where one family member stops talking to another family member, where families
Mhm.
dread getting together over the holidays because the battle is going to ensue over whose ideological orientation is right. They've forgotten to make love foremost and collaboration foremost. They've forgotten that there is there are deep concerns and high intentions underneath the surface positions that they get into arm wrestling matches over.
Mhm.
So that would be an example of what's going wrong if that's concrete enough for you.
Yes, and then also, so that's the family is a microcosm for the larger society, and so then we have similar things in society where a person or a group or a collective wants a certain way. This is the way that only makes sense and is best serving me and mine. And then you have the opposition to that that says, well, wait a minute, you're infringing on our ability or our rights, or we aren't giving permission, or we think that you're actually misguided or you're causing harm. And so the central focus of the conflict is the same, whether it's in the big mega scene or also in the personal and maybe even intrapersonal within a person.
That's what I wanted to get to because
Yeah,
yes, it's beyond maybe. It is
yeah,
intrapersonal as well
yeah.
because we unless we're fully enlightened beings, which I'm not an expert in because I'm not fully enlightened yet, we have a community of self. And we can hear this in ourselves on a daily basis where we'll say things like, when faced with a decision, well, part of me wants to say yes and part of me wants to say no. We have people, massive numbers of people, who have not just active inner critics, but toxically active inner critics that whatever we think we want to do or want to say or a decision we want to make, our inner critic shames us or blames others. So we have this kind of divisiveness going on inside ourselves, and that then gets out mirrored in our interpersonal relationships and out mirrored further into societal dynamics and out pictured even further into international relations.
Yes, and our and the stories that we tell ourselves about the era that we're living in, what's happening to us, what our futures look like. So I could go deeper with this, but I want to link it back to your futurist statement
Sure.
because we really didn't go into that too much. So the boots on the ground and the bigger picture are important aspects for any well-functioning adaptive system
Yeah.
to have. And often it's a hard thing, the telescoping and the microscoping at the same time, and not getting blurred or confused by that. But then we add in futurism, which is the timeline shift.
Yeah.
And so, how does that, is that too soon to invite you to talk about how that jumps in here? Yeah.
No, no, it's certainly not too soon. I'll say very little about my background with that and that's relevant to our discussion and then move into responding directly. I became very immersed in the human potential movement in the 1970s. And as part of that, I was an administrator for what was the very first professional organization in the then emerging field that was called holistic health, that has become integrative health and medicine. And I got to see firsthand how there was this clear desire for a next step. At that time, the next step was finally healing the mind body spirit split, right? And and what starts off as revolutionary, that this is the futurist in me talking, what starts off as revolutionary as it becomes more and more accepted, the tendency is for it to become stultified or stagnant and for people to think, oh, well, we've arrived, rather than this was a marvelous step on a larger journey that has subsequent steps.
Hmm.
And so the futurist in me has seen that we're in the process of shifting from a focus in human potential on mind, body, spirit to a focus on me, we, and us all as a whole human being. So the our core drive for authenticity, to be who we truly are, is the me part. And that is the unification of mind, body, and spirit. The we part is collaboration, it's relationship, connectedness, right? And the third drive is to influence the world around us, which is impact. It's at a group level. What's my unique role in helping an elevated future emerge in whatever my spheres of influence happen to be? And what we haven't had, as I see it as a futurist, is we haven't had a roadmap for human potential that unifies all of those things. And so what came through me as a futurist is something that ended up being called the Spark Blueprint, with the last letter in Spark being a C rather than a K. And it's an acronym for a fully customizable, all-purpose framework for people to step into their best future and their best impact in helping a larger future emerge. The last thing I'll say as a futurist is that I am firmly convinced that the species we've been for a very long time, called Homo sapiens, is over. And that's created so much stress, confusion, and divisiveness in individuals and societies because people don't fully recognize that we're elevating into a new species, let alone what that new species is meant to be. And I view us as moving from Homo sapiens to Homo spiritus, where instead of being human animals, which is what Homo sapiens is about, we're called into becoming worldly conduits of higher love, wisdom, and power.
Oh, higher love, wisdom, and power. Wow. I mean, how much there is here to unpack, as you say sometimes.
Right.
So, um, I definitely want to talk about your spark idea
Yeah.
and the higher love, purpose, and wisdom, I think you said.
Higher love, wisdom, and power.
Love, wisdom, and power in that order. But I also have another question, which
Sure.
maybe we can entertain and then go into those two other areas.
Sure.
This is the area of unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So let's say for some reason that we agree on what these lofty notions are that we're aiming towards, that we
Mhm.
really don't want to do harm. But we want to work together. We've worked on ourselves as individuals and as a collective enough so that we have a map for moving forward. Here's my question. It's commonly observed that every action leads to an opposite and equal reaction, right? And so that idea of balance, or the opposite is formed at the same time that the positive is formed. And we often don't know the consequences of our good intentions. What might be good for me, I think is good for you, isn't, or for us, isn't for someone else, or down the road has other, so you see where I'm going? So, how does your model account for that kind of a wisdom that might be in our blind spots? Or are we
Yeah.
supposed to just sort of go with our gut and learn the best we can with the bumps and bruises that come along with life?
Yeah. Great, great, great question, and a very important one. I'll respond in two ways. One is that when we're talking about well-intended people, and in my experience, far more people than not are well-intended. Obviously, we know that there are ill-intended, sinister people out there too, but I think they're in the minority, not in the majority. And well-intended people, we are still very capable of making what I refer to as loving mistakes. where there is a disconnect between our good intentions and our unintended impacts,
Hmm.
right? And so part of psycho-spiritual maturity, being really well developed both psychologically and spiritually, is about being awake about the potential for that disconnect to exist. And instead of getting defensive about it, to be open to discovering that other people are being impacted by our loving intentions in ways that are different from what our loving intentions would have wanted, so that
Mm.
we can bring our intentions and our impacts into harmony with each other rather than have them continue to be disconnected with each other. And that's the second part of the two things I wanted to say, which is I call that skill set impact literacy.
Okay.
And so there's a whole training component around impact literacy, which really revolves around the high minded version of accountability, which is not the weaponized version that's too often used, where accountability is a masquerade for being coercive and shaming and punishing and all of that stuff, but where accountability is growth oriented. It's about making sure that my good intentions and the impacts they lead to are aligned rather than disconnected.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lovely. Yeah, those are beautiful tools when we are brought into awareness of our disconnection. Yeah. And sometimes we just don't know. We're not going to know, and we have to kind of go by our path, whatever that is, and
Well,
have outcomes occur, you know?
exactly. We often don't know, and that's you're familiar, but our audience might not be with something called the Johari window.
No.
Ah, okay. Well, this is from organizational development psychology.
Okay.
Two organizational development psychologists by the name of Joe and Harry developed this simple grid for understanding four variations having to do with what we know about ourselves, what others know about us. The first is things I know about myself that you know about me. The
Hmm.
second is things I know about myself that you don't know about me. Not necessarily because I'm keeping secrets, it could be that, but more often it's because it's just never come up in conversation. The third version is things you know about me, especially about my impacts that I don't know about myself. And the fourth variation is things that neither you nor I know about me. Well, that third variation is the heart of impact literacy, where we have the humility to know that it's other people who are going to illuminate for us what the actual impacts of our good intentions and how we express those are and aren't. They're the ones that give us the feedback that let us know whether the impact we're having is aligned with our good intentions or
Hmm.
misaligned with our good intentions.
Thank you for that. Now that you describe it, I do remember reading about it in your books, but I didn't remember the name. Yeah. I
Okay.
was thinking more like a Japanese sounding, like
Well, it's spelled
Joe.
Johari, so it could sound Japanese.
Yeah, like Joe Ray and Joe Hari.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So let's go back to, thank you for all this. This is
yeah,
great. I'm having a master class. I love it. Thank you. Let's go back to the spark with the C
sure.
and the map, the guideposts and so on that you've created because it's I've had a sneak preview and it's quite comprehensive, specific, and inviting.
Thank you. And it's intended to be integrative, meaning that it can be used by us individually for our own journeys. It can be used in relationships. It can be used in business. It can be used in societies and governance with different variations on how it's utilized. But the basic framework, each letter in Spark stands for a specific ingredient. So there are five ingredients because Spark has five letters. And I'll say what each ingredient is and then I'll define them.
Okay.
So The S in spark is shatter spells. Again, I'll define these in a second.
Mm.
The P in spark is picture the future. The A in spark is align your purpose. The R in spark is rise your capacities. And the C in spark is collaborate to amplify impact. So the S in spark, shatter spells. We're under all kinds of illusions as a society and as individuals that interfere with our full authenticity, our full collaboration capacity, and our full ability to have positive impact. So there are societal spells and personal spells that need to be, and they vary from society to society on a societal level, and they vary from individual to individual on a personal level. Those spells need to be identified, and freedom needs to be claimed from them. Those spells need to be replaced with a worldview and a self-view that support us rather than sabotage us. So that's the S. Have I said enough about that to move on to the P?
Yes, and just I just want people to know that you can't just automatically know that you're in a spell on how to break it. And so I know that your work goes into more detail about all of that. So I don't want to have people be hanging at the first letter and saying, "Oh my goodness, am I in a spell?" And what do I do about that? So, but your program, which is comprehensive, goes into a lot of detail about all of this. So what we're doing right now is
It's
taking an overview.
You're quite right
Yeah.
because the program itself is boots on the ground. Here's how to do it.
Yeah.
Here's what to look for.
Yeah.
Here's how to identify it. Here's how to get free of it.
Yes.
Sure. So the P is picture the future. We're only in a position to be able to picture the most elevated future we want for ourselves, our loved ones, our nation, humanity. We're only in a position to picture an elevated future to the extent to which we are free from the spells that block us from either seeing that future or from recognizing that that future is possible to create or
Hmm.
co-create. So once we're free from those spells, we're free to picture the future we most want. That's the P.
Yeah.
The A in Spark is align our purpose with that future. So align what I refer to as our dual pronged purpose, which is our soul growth mission and our impact mission, with the future we want to help emerge for ourselves and for our spheres of influence. And when there's a misalignment between our purpose and that future, we're chaotic, we're unsettled, we're stressed, we're not in a good position to be in the world the way we most want to be in the world and be with ourselves the way we most want to be with ourselves. So
Or
that alignment,
angry, disillusioned, frozen as well.
yes, yes,
Fearful. Hmm.
without a doubt. And so that alignment between our purpose and that future can't fully emerge until we're first clear about the future we most want. So the A in Spark is align.
Okay.
Once we're clear about the future we want and our unique role in helping that future emerge, we're then finally in a position to identify what kinds of mindset upgrades and skill set upgrades, capacities are most important for us to elevate in order to actualize our highest purpose.
And that R is what again?
Rise our
Rise.
capacities,
Rise. Okay.
right?
Thank you.
We
Hmm.
can't we can't identify what to rise until we're clear about our purpose in that future.
And so rise also includes resources to be able to make that rise happen.
Without a doubt, once
Okay.
we've identified the capacities that are the most useful ones for us as individuals to focus on elevating, then we get to identify what resources are best suited to helping us elevate those capacities.
Okay.
And then the C in Spark is collaborate to amplify impact. So as we're actualizing our purpose, we want to make sure that we are aligned with mentors that support our actualization, with groups, with communities, with tribes, if you will, that are supportive of the direction that we're heading in. And I refer to that as like-spirited, like-hearted, diverse-minded tribes.
Mm.
And the other part of collaborate is aligning ourselves with initiatives, whether it's a business or a cause or a nonprofit or a group or whatever it happens to be, aligning ourselves with initiatives that are looking for our unique skill sets, our unique capacities in helping a future emerge that's aligned with the future that we want to see emerge. So that collaboration piece is a combination of mentors, peers, peer support, and initiatives that we're aligning ourselves with so that we can amplify our impact.
Wonderful.
That's the Spark Blueprint in
I
a
love
nutshell.
it. I love it. And I know that you have materials that we'll have in the program notes that go into more detail if people want to learn more, to get more involved. It'll all be there. And you've worked on this for so many years. I know you've brought together many threads from different learning and teaching that you've done over the years to kind of have this comprehensive model that's very well thought out and truly tested in the real world because you know that these things work because you've worked in different capacities and seen the success of them.
Yes.
Yes. So maybe I'm throwing you off, maybe not, but I'm wondering how does this relate to no, what did you say?
Homo
Homo
spiritus.
spiritus. Homo spiritus.
Well,
So,
this is the
yeah.
pathway for Homo spiritus to emerge.
Okay.
I don't think that the next species that we're emerging into and meant to emerge into is going to happen as rapidly and as efficiently as it can unless we have a framework like the Spark Blueprint or some other parallel framework that helps catalyze the emergence of this in us.
Yeah.
So,
And
Homo spiritus, the Spark Blueprint is the blueprint for helping us actually become worldly conduits of higher love, wisdom, and power in the physical universe.
love, wisdom, and power. I'm thinking about the chakras.
Yep.
Often love is seen in the heart, wisdom maybe in the third eye,
Yep.
maybe
It's
in
sixth and
the
seventh
crown.
chakras.
Yeah. And then power often in the solar plexus,
Yes.
at least from that perspective.
Yes.
So but you have to be grounded in the lower chakras.
Well, this is where the you might call it the axis mundi, the axis of the world, is meant to flow through us. If you can imagine this vertical column of light it starts all the way above us metaphorically in the heavens, the transcendent,
Hmm.
and goes through the core of our being and all the way deep down into the earth, so that we're drawing from the earth the wisdom of mother and grandmother energy, archetypally speaking, and we're drawing down from the heavens the wisdom, archetypally speaking and metaphorically speaking, of elevated masculine consciousness in all human beings, so that we are the wedding internally of the divine masculine consciousness and the divine feminine consciousness, archetypally speaking, in all human beings.
Yes. And where are our ancestors then? All of it?
Well, as it's been shown to me, and I don't think this is the only way to see it, but I experience my ancestors surrounding me.
Okay.
That my ancestors are rooting for me to become more of what we're talking about, because when we're healed, we're never healed alone. The more healing I do in myself, the more wounds of my ancestors get healed as well, at least in those ancestors that have become wanting to and open to being healed.
And even those that don't want to are taken along for the ride through our own DNA.
Yeah, to one extent or another. And their healing then informs our wisdom even more fully.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Thank you for that. So this is a lot,
It
but it's
is.
also like time. You know what I mean? Like the time is now. I mean, maybe it's not a lot. Maybe we've been under the spell of darkness and someone lights a match and we go blind for a minute and it's only a match. So maybe it's not a lot, but it can feel overwhelming. But I love how you've broken it down and made it clear with steps and processes and um, an idea of where we're heading. I'm thinking about storytelling and how storytelling with the spells, it doesn't just lead to disillusion, disconnection, lack of empowerment, ignorance, and abuse of control. The opposite is also true. And the balance between them. The wisest stories I found in my life are the ones that incorporate all of it and then maybe don't even offer an answer, but just say, here it is, and then leave a pause for what is next. What do you do with that? How do you understand it? Mulling it over. And so, um, but stories often guide our consciousness and how we create reality and formulate it for ourselves. And so I love one of the things that you did with your Spark is that you have storytelling um, integrated into the dynamics of this.
Yes, in
And
the Spark Blueprint, I'm sorry, the Spark Trilogy, the first book in the Spark Trilogy is a story. It's a modern
yeah,
fable for fractured times.
yes. And I've been actually in thinking lately about creating short stories for that point us in a new direction for our new templates of what wants to emerge and isn't yet here. And so I'm actually keeping a notebook of things that I'm interested in. And then the challenge becomes how do you do this in a 7 to 10 minute story um, uh, of having different aspects of it. But I think that we do need new stories. The old
Yes,
ones are really stale and they
they,
feel so toxic. I mean, I think one measure of this is a little bit off base, but not quite because it talks about consciousness. One measure of how do we know if we've changed, because sometimes it can feel very disillusioning, like we haven't really changed that much, have we? But if you watch an old comedy from a long time ago or read a book from a long time ago that has that's very culturally rich, you'll probably be struck by how tone deaf it seems. That it's like, oh, really? I remember or I don't when that was true, but now these other things are true. And if it was, it wouldn't sell today. It doesn't have the same impact. It's not funny anymore. And
yeah,
it's a measure of the fact that our consciousness is changing. So
yes,
we become accustomed to what remains the same, but we don't always notice what's different. And so
right.
telling those stories in a new way, having new stories may help guide us just a little bit ahead of where we can see and feel.
Well, exactly. The old stories are stories that were developed to anchor in us an old paradigm.
Yeah.
At the time they were developed, they were anchoring a new paradigm in us, but those paradigms become stale over time. They're not end results. They're stepping stones. They're phases along a much larger arc of a journey of a soul and a journey of our collective mm, spirits, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And so periodically the metaphors, the stories need to be refreshed and updated to support the next phase in humanity's development and in our development. So I love that you're going to be building this series of short stories. What it reminds me of is from Sufi tradition, there are these teaching stories. Sufism is the mystical branch of Islam that very rarely gets talked about because the dramatic, fundamentalists get the airtime on the media. But the mystical branch, Sufism, there's this whole set of teaching stories, and they're all very, very short.
Yeah.
That have wonderful. They're like Zen koans.
Yes.
They raise a question without giving an answer.
Yes.
They draw our attention to something that's worth paying attention to without telling us what to do about that.
Yes. It challenges us. And that I don't know that I'll get there, but I'm wanting to. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you for helping inspire me towards that.
Yeah, I have faith in you.
Oh, thank you. Um, yeah, telling new stories and using the wisdom from our past to help inform us. For, because it's not always so easy. Not everyone is so gifted to see the future, to be able to dream outside of the current. A lot of times when you ask people, well, what do you want? They complain. They say what they don't want. They don't even realize they're doing it. Well, I don't want to be where I am now, that's for sure. Like that kind of a thing. But it's like, but then you say, well, let's get real for a minute. What do you actually want? And they often get stymied because we get stuck in the spell of lack or frustration or disappointment or whatever it is. And it's hard to see a possibility that maybe you haven't lived before. How do you imagine a future for yourself that's radically different? And you may not even know that it exists or how to get to it. Some people say, well, instead of being specific on the future, maybe say like this or something better or optimal process and outcome, or they leave it kind of more open-ended for something better than what you can imagine to come in. So anyway, I don't know, it seemed important to mention that part of it.
Well, it is important because I will often, to plant a seed, open up a question around what's stopped you from seeing a better future or from believing that future is possible. And whatever their answer is, from I don't know to, well, I don't deserve, or it's not safe, or whatever comes up, it's a starting place. It's the door opener that then makes it possible to take that first step in the spark blueprint, shatter spells. Because you're right, we don't know we're under a spell when we're under it.
No kidding, huh?
Right? That's the whole anatomy of a spell.
Yeah,
You don't know you're under a spell when you're under it.
yeah.
So something has to jog us. And those things that jog us are wake-up calls.
When you first said at the beginning of our interview today about 2020 is hindsight in 2020, all I could hear was the year 2020, 2020,
Oh,
and how, the pandemic was our 2020. And that was they've often said that the change of consciousness for humanity, everyone was like Y2K, the year 2000, and then they were saying 2012, but many are saying really it was 2020.
well, in a sense, it was in that during the COVID drama, during the lockdown, more people than I think otherwise would have been the case started to do deeper soul searching around questions of meaning and questions of purpose.
Yeah.
And that has accelerated the emergence of the next developmental phase in consumer demand, because we went in the beginning of the 20th century, 21st century rather, we shifted into the experience economy. That's what it got called. People were looking for great experiences with the products and services they were buying. And in the 20 teens, it shifted again into what in the marketing and advertising journals by 2017, 2018 was being referred to as the transformation economy, where people weren't looking for just any old get high from it experience. They were looking for transformational experiences with the
Mhm.
products and services they were offering. Well, transformation is more like, it's kind of like self-actualization. But because people were soul searching around meaning and purpose during the COVID lockdown, what it hatched was an earlier emergence of the next stage than otherwise would have happened in from the transformation economy, which I call the transcendence economy, where it's what's greater than just me. I don't want to leave me behind, but what's greater than me?
Hmm.
That higher sense of meaning and purpose, greater than self, that Maslow in his final years referred to as the stage beyond self-actualization, which he called self-transcendence.
And this is now our full circle where we started at the beginning of our talk today. So,
Yeah,
self-transcendence, can you give a brief definition of that? And then maybe we can put a bow on this today.
sure.
Yes.
So I'll prep for that definition by saying Homo Spiritus is about self-transcendence. The Spark Blueprint and the Spark trilogy of books that make that blueprint accessible to the public is basically a roadmap for that self-transcendence to be able to occur on every level from individually to collectively as a humanity. And what transcendence is moving on a personal level. It's moving beyond over identifying ourselves as human bodies. It's not about pretending we're not in a human body. It's not about denial. It's about what we identify as the core of our being, that we are not human animals at the core of our being. At the core of our being, we are human spirits in a physical form. So we've got to deal with our bodies, we've got to deal with physical reality,
Hmm.
but through the lens of understanding that we are first and foremost conduits of universal, timeless forms of love, wisdom, and power. That's the code for transcendence,
Okay.
greater than only self.
Okay. Got it. Thank you for that. Yeah, because I wasn't quite sure if it was transcending the self into the collective rather than self-identifying as an individual. But you're saying that it's identifying as spirit, basically a spiritual identity having a human experience in a meat suit or whatever. Yeah.
Well, precisely, and it's a both and. It's not
Hmm.
about pretending I'm not an individual. It's about asking, how do I get to be a fully authentic and transparent individual who also is a steward of well-being in whatever groups I identify as being part of. It's not one or the other. It's the harmony between both. That's transcendence.
I love it. Yep. The water in the ocean, the drop of water in the sea. So it's all of it together.
Yeah.
Yes. We've separated ourselves too much. Judgment, control, and expectation create division and disharmony,
Right. And
separation.
internally, judgment, control, and expectation is the domain of our own inner critic. So if our inner critic is the boss of us, we're going to have authority issues out in the world.
And boy, don't we.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh, David, I love it. I love spending time with you. I love hearing what you have to offer. I love resonating with the energy that speaks in silent tones. That's the carrier wave
Yeah.
within and around and between all of that you're offering. It's just so wonderful to connect with you as always.
And right back at you. It's wonderful to connect with you. And I love the light that you're bringing to the world.
Oh, thank you. It's a delight. I didn't say in the beginning that I know you from ASAP, but that's how we got to first meet, and it didn't feel like a first meeting.
No,
Yeah.
no, it was a reunion.
Yes, another reunion. So thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to share as we come to the end of our time together?
Well, I'll close by saying something that I've grown very fond of saying, which is the sky is not falling.
Mm.
We are rising.
Oh, there's the title. We are rising. Well, I'll work with you on the rest of what follows from that. But yes, we are rising. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that I'm rising around the same rate you are, so that I can enjoy that.
Me too, because all that needs to be done, no one person can do.
Mhm.
And if every one of us is doing the part that we are uniquely individually called to fill in that bigger picture, then all bases will be collectively covered.
By design.
Yeah,
What a relief.
I know, right?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much, David.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you again for having me and for the opportunity to kick off your Second Timers Club.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit my website for podcast and resources at hopshealingtips.com. You can also like, share, and subscribe to this channel. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and is not providing healthcare advice. Please seek guidance from your professional healthcare team should you need assistance.